On May 6, 2008, 15-year-old Kozuki Miho was sitting at home in her pajamas when her mother went to bed around 10 p.m. Little did they know, however, that it would be the last time they ever saw each other. The very next day, Miho's mother would notify the police that she was missing, and the day after that, her body would be found. But what happened during the 2 days Miho went missing, and why was the most likely suspect in her case set free? According to the information police were able to put together, Miho was still at home at 10 p.m. on May 6th. She was in her pajamas, and her mother saw her before she went to bed. Then, shortly before midnight, Miho typed a simple message on her personal blog from her phone. It said, "Yay, found it," and was accompanied by a photo of a red light from a construction site at a nearby gas station. Around 50 minutes later, Miho then spoke to a friend on the phone. "I'm out walking by myself. I'm near a drugstore by the highway," she reportedly told them. Then she sent a message to her older brother, who lived in Tokyo. This was the last anybody ever heard of her. Around 9 a.m. the next day, Miho's mother realized she was missing and went to the police. She told police that Miho was a quiet, shy girl who spoke to her about everything, so it was incredibly strange for her to suddenly be missing without word. Police immediately set out to find her, and at 8:45 a.m. on May 8th, they did. Her body was found in a wooded area, covered in dirt and dry leaves, as though someone tried to half-heartedly hide it. Her cause of death was determined to be asphyxiation sometime the day before. She had also been hit several times with something hard, like a crowbar or pipe. Sadly, this missing persons case was now a murder investigation, and police first turned their attention to her friends and those close to her. One boy in particular that Miho was close to was suspected, but then quickly ruled out because he had an alibi. However, what police initially thought would be an easy, open and shut case quickly became rocky. Miho didn't have any troubles with anyone and was well liked around the neighborhood. None of her friends or acquaintances proved to be suspicious. And although Miho spoke to and even sent messages to several people shortly before her death, they could glean nothing from these either. What they were able to determine was that Miho walking around late at night wasn't anything new for her. Miho's parents divorced when she was only a child, and when she was in the 2nd grade, her mother met someone new who became basically her stepfather. It was reported that the two got along just fine, but when Miho was in junior high, issues arose and she stopped going to school so much. She did eventually start going to high school, but again it was mostly part-time. She spent most of her time visiting friends, playing the guitar. She reportedly wanted to start a band, and updating her blog that often featured her evening adventures. In fact, she had reportedly even been taken into custody by police before, for wandering around places she shouldn't have at night. Police also discovered that Miho's stepfather had passed away on April 8th, only a month before she went missing, which may have contributed to her again missing school and wandering the streets alone at night. A break in the case finally came on May 16th, 8 days after her body was found. A truck driver went to the police to inform them that around 3 a.m. on the night of May 7th, he saw a young girl walking with a man pushing a bike towards the area where her body was later found. His description of the girl matched Miho, and the time lined up as well. This was exactly the information police needed, and it was the first solid lead they had. The truck driver testified that, from his truck, the man looked young, maybe 19 or 20. After scouring security camera footage in the area, police were able to find the pair walking down the highway towards the scene of the crime as well, just like the truck driver said. Police got to work and uncovered a suspect who lived nearby. 60-year-old unemployed man Naka Katsumi. Naka had previous convictions for assault and even murder, and during their investigations, they found a restaurant worker who revealed he had seen Naka that day, and he was wearing a hat and clothes just like those the truck driver had seen. He was also pushing a bike. This made Naka the #1 suspect, but police at the time were unable to find any physical evidence linking him to the crime. Just 2 eyewitnesses who had seen him or a man who looked like him in similar clothes that same day, pushing a bike and walking with a girl near the scene of the crime. It wasn't until November that same year that police were finally able to make their move. On November 15th, police arrested Naka for stealing women's underwear and 2,000 yen in offertory money from a shrine back in July and August of that year. These were the first things they were able to actually pin on him, and from that, they were able to get a warrant to search his house. This search lasted 6 days, and they took over 2,000 items. On February 26th the next year, Naka was sentenced to 1 year in prison for the thefts. Then, as police continued their investigation for Miho's murder, they arrested him again on April 7th that year. This time for murder and abandonment of a corpse. They had not found any physical evidence or anything else tying him to the case from the search of his house, however, so they were still relying on the eyewitness testimonies they had, and several strange actions Naka took after the crime, such as getting rid of his clothes, repainting his bicycle, and also the sudden disappearance of a crowbar he had owned and used for years. The same crowbar police believed was the murder weapon. Combined with his previous history of assault and murder, he killed his common-law wife and her older brother back in the 1970s, after the relationship soured, and spent 6 years in prison for beating a woman in a scarily similar fashion to Miho. Police were sure it was him. Naka's trial for Miho's death garnered a lot of public attention due to the lack of actual evidence tying him to the crime. Everything police had was basically eyewitness testimony, evidence that could be marked as a coincidence, or pure suspicions based on likelihood, but not hard evidence. And yet, despite all this, Naka was initially found guilty and sentenced to life in prison. However, it was discovered during the trial that the police had made a massive mistake while preparing their case. On January 11th, 2009, they called the truck driver back in to interview him again. He reportedly asked to see a photo of the suspect, and police obliged. Unfortunately for all involved, this was done before the official criminal identification lineup. And so, the truck driver's testimony then changed to fit Naka's description. Remember how he initially reported that the person he saw was young, only 19 or 20? Yeah. On appeal, this became a massive point of contention. The defense argued that by showing the truck driver Naka's photo before the lineup, it influenced his decision. Suddenly, everything he remembered about the suspect now matched Naka perfectly. Police had also originally claimed that Naka perfectly described Miho's accessory pouch, information of which had never been made public, and thus only the criminal would know. Yet the defense argued that this interrogation was neither recorded nor taped, therefore it couldn't be used as evidence, because it didn't officially exist. And in the end, the court agreed. On July 10th, 2014, the Osaka High Court overturned the previous ruling and set Naka free. Police simply didn't have the necessary evidence to convince the court of Naka's guilt in the crime he was accused of, and suspicion alone wasn't enough to convict someone. Plus, some of the evidence they tried to present could be viewed as tainted due to their carelessness in handling the matter. A mere 4 months after being released for Miho's murder trial, Naka was again arrested, however. This time for stabbing a female acquaintance of his. This time he was found guilty and he was sentenced to 16 years in prison. Interestingly, while he was in the Osaka detention center, another inmate claimed that Naka confessed to him that he really did kill Miho. According to the man, he asked Naka first if he actually did it, and initially he denied it. But then, one night he opened up and said, "I really did do it. I killed her. Because she saw my face. I buried the crowbar in a different spot on the mountain to where the police searched, but they'll never find it. And even if they tested it for DNA, they won't find a thing anyway." Of course, this confession is just hearsay from another prisoner, and legally can't be used for anything. But it's easy to see why police and the general public still thought Naka did it, even if he was officially found not guilty of the crime. At any rate, in 2016, Naka started receiving care for ill health, and on July 11th that same year, he passed away. Although he was never officially found guilty in Miho's death, for many it was still a form of divine justice either way. But what did you guys think of this one? Let me know in the comments below, and if you'd like to help support this channel so you can see more content like this, please consider hitting that join button down below as well. Every bit of support really helps. Thanks guys, and I'll see you again next time.